back, everyone. I figured since I didn't upload last night, I'd give you guys an earlier midday upload. Wherever you guys are out there, I hope you're having a great day, or night, whichever the case. I want to thank these individuals for sending in these encounters, and I want to thank you for being here. Thank you for listening, and most of all, thank you guys for the continued support and the kind words that you share with me in the comment section each day. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to share it here on the channel, just send me an email and we can talk about it. My email address will be in the description of this video. If you're new here, welcome, my friend. Now everyone buckle up and let's get into these encounters. Grab a drink. Lock your doors and windows. Hit the lights. And let's get started. Hey, I'm Brandon. I've been meaning to write to you for a while about something that happened to me last summer. But it seems like every time I start typing this, I end up backing out and stopping. Hopefully I can get through it this time and finish it. It was just me and a friend of mine that we'll call Tom. We were camping up in Manistee in Michigan. I also had my trusty canine friend, Rusty, with us. We'd been out there for 2 days, just chilling and hanging out by the fire in the evenings. That place is massive, and it's a literal sea of trees, and it's mostly quiet except for the normal sounds of nature. Anyway, this was the third and the last night we were going to be there. I don't know the exact time, but I would guess close to midnight, or around there somewhere. Tom had already crashed in the tent, as we had been drinking quite a few beers that evening. But I was still up poking around the fire with Rusty laying next to me. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, he scared the hell out of me. His ears perked up, and he jumped up and starts looking into the dark past our campsite, growling. I just figured he'd seen a small rodent or something, so I grabbed the flashlight, and it's one of those big bright ones. I don't know what brand it was. It was Tom's light, and it was pretty expensive, I think. It might have been an Olight. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but it's not important. So I get a light, and I start shining it around us through the trees. I didn't see anything as I was circling the entire camp, lighting it up until I got to the point which would have been behind us. That's when I catch the set of yellow eyes staring directly at me. And it was exactly where Rusty was looking and barking. Red flag. These eyes had to be over 8 feet off the ground, and it wasn't anything like an owl on a limb because there was no limbs there. This thing was standing in the open. Then I start hearing more noises directly behind me again. Rusty is whining now and absolutely freaking out. I don't want to turn my back, but I keep hearing these loud sounds, so I whip around and look behind me, and there's another set of the same type of yellow eyes. There's 2 of these things, whatever they are. The second one looks a bit shorter, and as soon as I shine the light on it, it spooks and takes off into the woods, and it's gone. I whip back around, and the first one is still standing in the same spot, still staring at me. With all the barking and all the commotion, that's when Tom did finally wake up. He come charging out of the tent with his handgun. I think it was a .45. I'm not a big gun guy, so I don't really remember. He starts yelling at me, what the hell is going on, and I've got the light trained on this thing, and I'm pointing, saying, there, what the hell is that? There's 2 of them. As soon as he sees the eyes, he starts pointing the handgun in the direction and tells me to steady the light. As soon as he points the gun at this thing, I hear it growl and make this only what I can describe as a demonic sound. And it lunges towards us and literally jumped about 15 feet forward and lands on all 4s. It continues to lower itself to the ground to where its stomach is literally touching. I had no clue what I was looking at, but Apparently Tom did. He said, "Holy shit, that is a Dogman." I tell him to lower the gun. As soon as he does this, the thing seems to loosen up a bit. Some of the aggression it's showing kinda eases up. That's when it started standing back up onto two legs. About midway to the upright position, that's when I start hearing what to me sounds like its joints popping. Now we could actually see what it looked like. I don't really know what to think. I don't know if I mentioned, but Rusty is a German Shepherd, and this thing's head looked exactly like his, but it dwarfed him in size. It had the same long snout, the same pointy ears as him. But when it was standing upright, its front legs appeared to be doubling as arms, although, as it's standing, I don't know how functional they would be because they were just dangling there. The weird thing that I didn't notice at first is how long they were. They were hanging down almost to this thing's knee area, which was bent backwards like a dog's legs. Also, it was covered in this reddish-brown hair. Now that it was closer, I could see the eyes a lot better. When I tell you these eyes had the look of a human, I mean they had serious intelligence behind them. As soon as I locked eyes with this German Shepherd from hell, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. I don't know why, but I felt as though it didn't mean us any harm. As soon as my body relaxed and my muscles weren't tense, it completely dropped its guard and tilted its head on one side as if it understood that we meant no harm as well. We were just scared. I never heard the second one return. I think it just left completely. Maybe somehow this one, being bigger, was an alpha and it somehow told the other one to leave. I don't know, and I probably never will. It started looking back and forth at me and then Tom. Rusty had just completely laid down on his stomach on the ground and was whimpering and whining as if to submit to this creature. I say that only because this thing shouldn't exist. But I know now that it wasn't violent towards us at all, and it could have easily taken both of us out in a second. But for some unknown reason, it didn't. After a brief stare down, it just casually turns its body, keeping its eyes locked on us, and slowly walks back into the woods upright like a man. We built up the fire as big as we could and used every light and lantern we had and lit up the campsite like a Christmas tree. Then we quickly started packing up. The whole time Rusty just wouldn't settle down. He kept pacing and whining the whole time. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention there was a smell in the area when this thing was close. It was a strong metallic sulfur smell. I'm not sure what that's about, but that's the odor that I picked up. It was still dark as we stumbled and made our way out of those woods. I never actually saw anything following us, but I did feel as though we were being watched the entire way. But obviously I'm sending this in, so we did make it out safely, thank God. On the drive back home, Tom filled me in about the Dogman. I didn't know this thing was real. Of course, being in Michigan, I had heard some stories about people allegedly seeing something that looks like this. But I always took these and the individual as people who are just seeking attention. Now I know that some of them have to be telling the truth, and that is what led me to YouTube and to channels like this, and then ultimately led me here to your channel specifically. I have been back to Manistee after that, but never to that exact spot where we were camping. I don't think there's any way I could go back out there. It still gives me the creeps just thinking about it. I know it didn't hurt us, but just seeing the size of this thing, you know that it could if it wanted to. And from what I hear, most of these things are quite aggressive towards most people. We got very lucky, and I know it. And no, this wasn't a bear or some guy in a costume. I figured you would want this story for your channel since all you do is Dogman stuff. Let me know if you're going to use it so I can keep an eye out. Thanks, Reels. Brandon. Today's second encounter. This email is titled From Carrie, and Carrie is in quotation, so I'm not sure if that's the real name, and that's totally fine. It also says that this happened in Racine, Wisconsin. Racine. Hi there, Reels. I'm Carrie, and I'm a super fan, and I've watched all of your videos. Thank you. I absolutely am in love with how you read these stories. That might change today after I read yours. Of course, I've got one of my own that happened in the fall of 2023. And my God, has it been bugging me, and I've been itching to tell someone ever since it happened. I live in Racine, Wisconsin, right by Lake Michigan. It's a pretty laid-back town. Nothing wild usually happens here. I like to walk my dog, he's a little terrier named Max, down by North Beach all the time. It's a really nice stretch along the lake with sand and some grassy spots. It's really peaceful, especially late in the evening. This was around the end of October, just before Halloween. The sun was going down, the sky was completely orange, and it was getting a bit cold. Me and Max were maybe a half a mile or so from the parking lot, just strolling along as we always did. Hardly anyone else was out. I guess it was too cold for most people. All of a sudden, Max just stops dead, his ears go up, and he starts pulling on the leash towards these bushes off the path. I tell him to knock it off, thinking he smelled a squirrel or found someone's trash, but then I hear this growl. It was a real deep and low, menacing growl, and no, it wasn't a dog. It didn't sound like it was super close, but it wasn't far enough away for me to be comfortable either. I look over at the bushes, and they were about 50 feet away, and I do notice there's a shape crouched down. At first I think it's a person trying to mess with me, but it's just too big. I take a few side steps and squint, trying to make it out, as it was starting to get low light and I couldn't see very well. But boy, as I made it around the bushes, I see it's got a head like a wolf. The first thing I saw was its pointed ears sticking up over the top of the bushes. Its body was, as I'll put it, odd. It's like it was just not meant to be built like that. It was very skinny, but very tall as well. It had these long arms that folded up while it was squatted there on the ground. I couldn't see its eyes too good, but it was definitely watching me and Max. My heart was jumping up out of my throat, and that's when Max starts barking like crazy, yanking the leash so hard that I almost dropped it. I muttered under my breath just out of fear, "What are you?" As soon as I say that, there's no way it could have heard me. It shifts its body like it's going to stand. I start to see the fur on its back catching the last bit of light. That's when I noped out. I turn around and scoop Max up and book it back to the car. I kept looking over my shoulder, and right before we got to the lot, I saw it again. This time it was standing at its full height, just a black shape against the trees by the shore. It didn't chase me, thank God for that. And it took off toward the water, moving fast, and I mean very fast, on two legs at first. Then it dropped down like it was running on all fours. I got home, locked my doors, and didn't sleep very much at all that night. The next day I told my sister about it, and she thinks it was a coyote or maybe some person out there with a costume that was trying to prank people. Coyotes are not even close to being that big. This thing's head was huge, and no one's going to be running around in a costume that good at dusk by the lake. I still walk Max there sometimes, not very often, and especially never late in the evenings anymore. That's my encounter with what I think was a dogman. Gosh, that has been stuck in my head for way too long. But I appreciate your time, and I'm very grateful to have a place to let this out and feel comfortable while I'm doing it. Keep it up. You're doing a great job. Carrie. Well, friends, legends, family. That's 2 encounters for you guys in this early evening upload. I will be uploading another video later tonight, so stick around for that one if you possibly can, as it may be late. I chose these 2 because it seems every upload I've done lately is aggressive, and these things are chasing people, trying to hurt them. It's stories like these that are very interesting. The Dogman in these encounters seems to be more curious than anything. I guess not all of these things are evil, or it seems. I'll put it that way. Well, I hope you found these as interesting as I did. And I want to thank Brandon and Carrie for sending these in. And Carrie, you did, in fact, in my humble opinion, encounter a Dogman. I'm just very glad that your encounter wasn't as bad as most. Again, thank you both for reaching out to me, sending these in. I hope you don't regret it, and I hope I narrated them to your liking. As for the rest of my family here, I want to thank you guys for listening as always. Be sure to hit the like button before you go. Share the video with anyone you think might be interested. Also, if you're new here, welcome, and please consider subscribing to the channel. If you're already subscribed, you're an absolute legend, and you have my appreciation and also my respect. Oh yeah, I almost forgot one more thing. One of my subscribers that some of you may have seen commenting before, Captain Kirk. He's a very good friend of mine, and we do talk via text pretty often. He texted me yesterday and told me he was out riding dirt bikes in Colorado and ran into a few fellow dirt bikers. They all started talking about cryptids, and somehow my channel was brought up. Apparently, a bunch of those guys were subscribers of mine as well. If those guys are listening, I just want to give y'all a shout out and say I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. And be careful out there, fellas. Absolute legends. Well, that's going to do it for this upload. I'll be back later with some more encounters. As always, watch over your loved ones. Keep your head on a swivel. And as always, good night.
Whoa.